Well, hello, and welcome back. This morning we're talking about how to understand complex things. So, first I'm going to take a second to adjust that. There we are. All right. I was listening to a book called The Software Developer's Complete Career Guide or something like that by John Sonmez, and he was reiterating this point of how to break things down so that you can understand them. Because when you look at code, let me go ahead and show you some atrocious code here. So here, oh, that's, there we go. There we've got some code on the screen. And this is difficult to understand because there's a lot of symbols and there's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't know, obviously. Let me get back to our main screen if I can figure out how to do that. Oh, whoa, I'm a little bit too close there. Okay, so we're going to go back. So I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to explain how you could actually understand something that you completely don't understand. Or if you were to open the hood of a car, let's take a car as an example as well. First, you need to know some relatively simple vocabulary just to get some bearings. Basically, I would call this anchor point vocabulary. So if you're dealing with a car, there's some things that you already know. You know that there are tires, and hopefully you know that there is an engine and that there's a hood and that there's some doors and there's a wheel, etc. Right? Steering wheel. So if you wanted to learn about cars, you can open up the hood, and the thing to do would be to focus on the things that you know and that are adjacent to what you know. Not to look at the big picture as a whole and be intimidated, but to be able to look at individual pieces that you can identify and to make guesses and to let yourself, it's okay to be wrong. I think the biggest thing that I see when I am teaching others a concept is they are afraid to be wrong. And it is the fear of being wrong that actually keeps them from being able to understand what is right in front of them that they would otherwise understand. If we look under the hood of a car, we can see that there are things that are either wires or hoses. We can see that there is oil and grease and dirt and debris. We can see that there are boxes. There's lots of things that we can understand. So if you just look at it and you say, it's a bunch of stuff, I don't understand it, you're already putting yourself in a place of fear, not in a place of being able to understand. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit of code. And it's not, the point here is just to give an overview of what, I'm not trying to teach you how to code, but the point here is to give an overview. Let me back up a second so I'm out of that. There we go. Of how to learn something you don't understand. So what you do understand out of this is that you do know what English letters are. So you're doing that well. Let's see. Oh, can I point? There we go. So you might not know what RM stands for, but it's something. And you see index.html, you know that index is a word. You've heard of HTML, you know it has something to do with web pages. And then we go down to the next line, and you just look for words that you know. For, my file, in star.md, do. Well, you know what for means, and my file sounds like it represents some sort of file, okay. In star.md, who knows what that means? Maybe it's another type of file, and then do. So if you just take away the parts you don't know and focus on what you do know, for X in Y, do. Well, that sounds kind of like for all the dishes in the sink, do. You can do this in math, it's called U substitution, but you replace something that is more complex with something that's simple so that you can examine other pieces first and then examine the pieces that are more complex later. So you just kind of do that. Just get rid of the things that you don't know and replace it with an X or a Y or whatever, and then move on to things that you do know. So here we have, this is a very strange word I've never heard before. Comrack, well, I have heard this word before, but you haven't heard that word before. Okay, we've got some quotes, and then we've got my file again, but now it's got a $sign in front of it. Who knows what that means? There's an arrow. There's base name, my file. I have no idea what this does. Or rather, I do, but you have no idea what this is. Okay, so skip it. It's something doing something, and there's some characters that are obviously special. So $sign must have some special meaning. Parentheses must have some sort of special meaning. Okay, and we go through that. We're done there. We go on to the next one. We see that there's a repeated pattern. So just like we had this for my file in star.md, now we have for my file in star.html. So this actually can maybe help us understand what was the previous one better. So we're doing something similar twice. We're doing it once with whatever an MD is, and we're doing it again. Well, we're doing something else with some HTML, and then we've got an echo my file, and then we've got a done. So if you were trying to learn this, you would not necessarily want to learn, or you wouldn't want to let yourself be overwhelmed by all the things that you don't know. You want to start with things that look somewhat familiar and let those be anchor points. So because I saw for a couple of times, I might be able to Google for in do, for example. And I would probably, let me just do that real quick. Let me go back to the full screen here. So I'm just going to Google for in do. And if this was car parts, you could look at how does engine connect to tires or whatever. Okay, the second hit is actually what we would kind of want to look for. But these results are going to be different because they're in a different language. But just taking the parts that you do know and then learning a little bit about what you can find is going to help you break that down. So the key message here is if there is something that is difficult and complex that you're trying to understand, skim it for the things that you do understand and use those as anchor points to search around. Don't get hung up on the big picture of not understanding what the thing does or knowing that there's so much that you don't know. Maybe there's 10% that you can recognize as something that's familiar. Inside of an engine or inside of a car, you would see screws. Those are familiar, right? You might not understand what they're connected to or what they're connecting, but the screw itself is a familiar concept. So anyway, whole point is, if you can take something complex and only focus on the things that can inspire confidence. If you're looking at a complex mathematical formula, you can recognize some numbers and symbols like addition. It gives you the ability to then have context to go begin searching. Because one of the things people ask, and I should have said this at the beginning, is I don't know what I don't know. So you have to figure out what you do know and then use that to bridge the gap to what you don't know. And in the modern age, if you're going to start on any sort of learning process, obviously you want some sort of mentor or guide, but you don't need as much hand-holding as you think to begin to develop an understanding of whatever's complex in front of you. The main thing is you need to let go of your fear and trust in the little tiny itsy bitsy pieces that you do know. All right. So with that out of the way, I'm going to end this. Close this out. But you have the best morning ever. And if you are interested in learning to code, I would love to invite you to check out the link in the description for Beyond Code Bootcamp. You can either subscribe to the live channel that I'm doing every night, or both the live channel and the Beyond Code Bootcamp playlist. And of course, if you want more of these morning shower thoughts, it's health, wealth, and commitment. Description's also in the link as well, or link is also in the description as well, or will be shortly after I hit stop record on this. All right. Adios.